Hare Krishna. So we're going to restart our reading of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrta, and we are on chapter 4, Bhakta, titled Bhakta the Devotee. We're on text 10. Responding, so this is Narad Muni talking to Prahlad Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Responding to your Lord's love, you agree to assume your father's throne. And as you told Lord Nrsimha in your prayers, by doing this you wish to help deliver all people. You are still on that royal seat, fixed in meditation on Lord Nrsimha. Commentary. Considering the Lord's unconditional affection toward him, Prahlad finally agreed to sit on the throne of his father. He intended to use the vast wealth of Hiranyakashipu's kingdom for preaching. If he could arrange for the deliverance of everyone in the universe, Prahlad calculated that might satisfy the Lord. It certainly seems curious that Prahlad at first refused elevation to the spiritual kingdom, but later accepted a limited kingdom in the material world. But Prahlad did this because of a special hankering in his heart, his desire to free the people of the world from their distress. He did not worry that by involvement in politics his own spiritual interests would be endangered, since he was confident that his unbroken meditation on the personality of Godhead would always protect him. Thus Prahlad prayed to Lord Nrsimha, Evam Sukarma Patitam Bhava Vaitaranyam Anyonya Janma Maranashana Bhita Bhita Pashyan Janma Swapara Vigravairamaitram Anteti Parachara Pipri Mudham Adya. Quote, my dear Lord, you are always transcendently situated on the other side of the river of death, but because of the reactions of our own activities, we are suffering on this side. Indeed, we have fallen into this river and are repeatedly suffering the pains of birth and death and eating horrible things. Now kindly look upon us, not only upon me, but also upon all others who are suffering, and by your causeless mercy and compassion, deliver us and maintain us. Bhagavatam 7:941. Material existence is like the river Vaitarani, the gateway to the court of death. In general, material life on earth is full of suffering, no less so that life in the subterranean realms of hell. Therefore, although immune to these dangers for our benefit, Prahlad speaks as if fearing the troubles he can expect in various births and deaths, and he presents himself as befooled like most people who deal with one another either as enemies or as friends, and who are thereby bewildered in all circumstances. Prahlad addresses Lord Nrsimha as Paratara, he who is situated on the other side of the Vaitarani river, or in other words, in the eternally free realm of Vaikuntha. Expressing his own pain at seeing the suffering of other souls in the material world, Prahlad requests the Lord to please carry them across the Vaitarani to safety. He then further prays, O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, original spiritual master of the entire world, what is the difficulty for you, who manage the affairs of the universe in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? You are the friend of all suffering humanity, and for great personalities it is neither to show mercy to the foolish. Therefore, I think that you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us who engage in your service. Bhagavatam 7:942. Here Prahlad addresses Lord Nrsimha as the spiritual master of all souls, implying that it is quite fitting for him to show mercy to everyone without exception. For the Lord to deliver every soul in existence should not be a great endeavor. because he creates, maintains, and destroys universe as a mere sport. And even less difficult should it be for the Lord to deliver his own devotees and their servants like Prahlad, who considers himself a fallen demon with the one good qualification of being Narad Muni's faithful disciple. Text 11. He once went to the Naimisha forest to have darshan of Narayan, who is known as the Lord in yellow dress. While on the road, you satisfied the Lord in combat. And he told you, yes, I am always conquered by you. Commentary. This incident is recounted in a number of scriptures, including the Vamana Puran. Once Prahlad took a trip to Naimisharanya to see Lord Pitavasa, the beautiful form of the Supreme Lord. While traveling on the road, he met a strange person who was dressed like an austere renunciate, but was carrying a warrior's bow and arrows. Prahlad assumed from this person's contradictory attire that he must be some hypocrite, abusing the true principles of religion. Therefore, Prahlad started a fight with the sannyasi, vowing, unquote, I swear I shall defeat you, unquote. But even after several days of dueling, Prahlad could not subdue this adversary. Early one morning, before resuming the battle, Prahlad worshipped his personal deity. He then saw his opponent standing nearby wearing the same garland he had just offered the deity. Prahlad suddenly recognized that the stranger was Lord Pitavasa, Narayan himself. Thereupon, offering prayers to that opponent with all the competence at his command, Prahlad tried to satisfy him. In response, the Lord touched him with his lotus hand, which relieved Prahlad from the fatigue of fighting and from all anxiety. Prahlad asked Lord Prithivasa, what do you do about having transgressed the duty of a Kshatriya by having made a promise, namely to defeat his opponent, and not having fulfilled it? The Lord, fully satisfied by the sport of fighting with Prahlad, told him, but I am always defeated by you. Text 12. Sri Parikshit continued. Having said this, Narada, the ocean of ecstasies in devotion to Lord Hari, began to dance. That intimate servant of the Lord shouted, conquered by us. Unquote. Commentary. The word Jitam Ashmabhi, conquered by us, imply that Narada claimed victory not just for himself and Prahlad, but for all the devotees of Lord Narayan. Text 13. Sri Narada then said, O best of Vaishnavas, why should I say that Lord Mukunda has been conquered only by you? Your grandson Bali, chief of the Daityas, has also conquered him. By your grace, Bali keeps the Lord as his doorman. Commentary. Bali conquered the Lord in the sense of gaining control over him, by which Lord Vamanadev now serves always as Bali's doorkeeper. Since Bali was a leader of the Daityas, the enemies of Lord Vishnu's devotees, he could have obtained this influence only by the Lord's special favor. Sri Prahlad himself explained this while offering prayers to Lord Vamana. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are universally worshipped. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva worship your lotus feet. Yet, although you are such a great personality, you have kindly promised to protect us, the demons. I think that such kindness has never been achieved even by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or the goddess of fortune Lakshmi. What to speak of other demigods or common people? Bhagavatam 8:23-6. The Prahlad Samhita of the Skanda Puran in the chapters describing the glories of Dwaraka Dham also relates the following history. When Dwaraka city was once attacked by 10 powerful Daityas, a committee of residents headed by Durvasa Rishi went in great distress to the abode of Bali Daityaraj. There the sage Durvasa beseeched Lord Vamandev to come to Dwaraka to defend them, but the Lord replied, O best of Brahmanas, I am not independent, because I am purchased by pure devotion, and by that alone I am now the order carrier of Bali. I am completely controlled by that king of the Daityas. So, my dear excellent Brahmana, please go ask the demon Bali, son of Virochana, and if he orders, I shall at once do whatever you want. In Skanda Purana. But when Durvasa submitted his request to Bali Maharaj, Bali refused to give permission for Lord Vamana to leave Sutala Loka. Even after Durvasa expressed the intention to fast until death, Bali told him, let whatever you intend come about. Whatever you have in mind, please do that. But I shall never give up the 2 feet at which Brahma, Rudra, and all other demigods bow down. Text 14. From now, I intend to stay here permanently with you. By your power, I shall certainly be able to overcome the curses I received from Daksha and others. Commentary. Not only Daksha, but others also have cursed Narada to be unable to stay in one place for more than a short time. Daksha cursed him as follows, in quote, you have made me lose my sons once, and now you have again done the same inauspicious thing. Therefore, you are a rascal who does not know how to behave toward others. You may travel all over the universe, but I curse you to have no residence anywhere. Bhagavatam 6.543. In the allegorical story of King Puranjana, old age, the daughter of time, also curses Narada. Because you refuse my request to marry me, you will not be able to stay in one place for a long time. Bhagavatam 4.27-22. Sri Parikshit said, unable to tolerate hearing his own praise, Prahlad lowered his face in embarrassment, bowed down before Narada, and respectfully addressed him in a quiet voice. Commentary. Prahlad was ashamed to hear himself praised. He began to think that by speaking such impossible things, Narada must be teasing him. Still, he spoke gently because he had great respect for Narada, his Diksha Guru. Had Prahlad not been addressing such a revered person, Prahlad might have expressed anger by replying in a louder voice. Sri Prahlad said, my lord and spiritual master, please reconsider everything you have said. A young boy simply cannot understand correctly the science of devotional service to Krishna. Commentary. Proper execution of devotional service requires mature understanding, since Bhakti Yoga is not only an external practice but the natural employment of all the faculties of the self. As a general rule, young children before the awakening of intelligent discrimination cannot have the understanding required to engage in devotional service. There may be individual exceptions in the highly cultured families of sages and saintly devotees, but Prahlad, considering himself an uncivilized demon, would hardly claim to be such an exception. Text 17 to 18. Still, when one receives instructions from great souls, those instructions have the power to awaken one's higher understanding, and then one can engage in devotional service to Lord Hari. Therefore, it is not a sign of greatness that ordinary persons like me can persevere despite terrible disturbances, give spiritual enlightenment to children, behave like saintly persons, show compassion to suffering souls, or refuse the boon of liberation. Commentary. Prahlad has personal experience of the incalculable benefits of associating, even briefly, with the pure devotee of the Lord. Thus he ascribes all his spiritual assets to the mercy of Narada, who blessed him with the transcendental knowledge and guided him on the proper path of devotional service. A person has matured in his understanding when he realizes that the four basic goals of life, which are mundane religiosity, economic development, sense enjoyment, and impersonal liberation, are ultimately inadequate. As a natural consequence of this realization, one begins to recognize the great value of devotional service to the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Lord's devotees. Prahlad was not crushed by his father's persecution. He preached vigorously to the sons of the Daityas. He behaved like a self reliant saint, dancing and singing in ecstasy. He was merciful to the suffering conditioned souls, and he refused liberation when Lord Nrsimha offered it. Srila Sanatan Goswami comments also that the final word "cha" and implies that Prahlad pleased all kinds of people. Prahlad argues here, however, that these are not always signs of a person engaged in devotional service. What to speak of someone advanced in devotion? Thus, Prahlad means to refute Narada's statement in text 4 about Prahlad's having been a great devotee of the Lord since early childhood. In analyzing Prahlad's words, we have to consider that he denies only some of Narada's claims about his greatness. Others he simply shows in a different light. Prahlad argues that as a child he could not have possessed pure devotion because a child does not have the strength to understand things or act properly. Prahlad admits he was able to withstand the torments imposed by Hiranyakashipu, but he could not withstand them only because of the protection afforded to all devotees by the internal potency of the Lord. Yes, some Daityas became Vaishnavas due to Prahlad's preaching, but he was deputized to preach to them only because truly great souls are not supposed to instruct immature children. And in any case, talk is cheap, or as the traditional saying goes, Paropadeshe Pandityam Sarvesham Sukaram Nrinam. It is easy enough for anyone to make himself sound like an expert while advising others. In this verse, Prahlad does not even mention Narada, depicting him as fully absorbed in meditation on Krishna, like in text 6. The comment would be too embarrassing to acknowledge openly. He does, however, admit to dancing and singing in ecstasy, but even practicing neophytes often show these outward symptoms. Beginners in sadhana bhakti should dance and sing as a matter of duty. In other words, each item Narada offers as a sign of Prahlad's greatness is simply a natural effect of pure devotional service. Pure devotional service becomes manifest only when one's intelligence has become mature, and that occurs only when one has received instructions from great saints who causelessly bestow their mercy. So Prahlad argues that the way he behaved is no reason to credit him with laudable spiritual qualities. Lord Nrsimha and Sri Narada deserve all the credit. Text 19. Merely from these symptoms, the best of saints do not conclude that Krishna has given a person his mercy. Krishna's mercy, blessed Narada, appears only in a truly worthy servant. Commentary. The most advanced saints are pure Vaishnavas who understand the power of devotional service to Sri Krishna's lotus feet. I could not have received Krishna's special mercy, Prahlad says, because he gives that only to a devotee who deserves it. You, Narada, are blessed by the Lord's internal potency. You have received his mercy. So you know very well that only a proper candidate can obtain it. The Lord's mercy is infinite, beyond the limits of time and space. But in the material world, it becomes visible only at certain times and certain suitable devotees. Text 20. I have never performed any real service for the Lord, like Hanuman and others. I have only remembered the Lord sometimes when my mind was troubled. Commentary. Quote, but you are a devotee of Lord Vishnu. Unquote. Narada might interject, and so you do deserve his mercy. Mercy. Prahlad replies by constrating himself with others. No, contrasting. Prahlad replies by contrasting himself with others like Hanuman, who serve the Lord actively. Even now, Prahlad says, I am only practicing meditation. I have not yet become proficient even as a passive meditator. Narada might argue in return that fixing one's mind on the Lord is one of the 9 methods of pure devotional service. Remembering the Lord's names, forms, and pastimes is on the highest level of self realization in Bhakti Yoga. Because seva means devotional service, Prahlad should not use this word to deny that he has ever served the Lord. Prahlad answers this by characterizing himself as disturbed by material anxieties, a condition that automatically disqualifies him from Nama Smaran, Rupa Smaran, and Leela Smaran. A further argument is also implicit here that remembrance is not the best form of devotional service. since it depends on the functions of the mind, which are subject to distraction by anxiety and other emotions. This argument will be elaborated more fully further on in The Glories of Golok, text 21. You praised me because he caressed me and showed other signs of affection. But some consider such affectionate behavior merely a false show of Maya, and others just a display of his pastimes. Commentary. The Advaitavadis of the Shankaracharya school judge the loving dealings of the Supreme Person with his devotees to be illusory. The Advaitavadis hold that the Supreme Absolute Truth cannot become involved in such duality. But others, the Vaishnavas of the devotional schools, affirm that these are the Lord's pastimes. Far from being illusory, they constitute the highest spiritual reality. The personality of Godhead is full in all transcendental qualities of Satchid Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. And with the help of his Satchid Ananda potency, he can easily engage in Satchid Ananda pastimes. Here, Sri Prahlad's idea is that even though the Lord's display of affection may be considered real, he has acted in these ways only to fulfill the purposes of his own enjoyment. Prahlad thinks that Lord Nrsimha only pretended to care about me. Ooh. Text 22. You regard these affectionate displays as natural symptoms of his love, but I consider them no more real than a dream. And even if we accept them as real, they are still not evidence of his mercy. Commentary. In the opinion of Narada, an expert authority on the glories of the personality of Godhead, Lord Nrsimha's display of affection towards Prahlad arose from the Lord's intrinsic compassion. One might argue that this does not mean that the Lord had any special feeling for Prahlad, since he bestows his mercy indiscriminately on everyone, just as a fire relieves everyone near it from feeling cold. But still, Narada may counter, the Lord showed his favor toward Prahlad. Prahlad replies that he considers the Lord's mercy on him to be like a dream. In other words, it is as good as unreal. The Mayavadis say that the Supreme Person's merciful dealings are illusory products of Maya. The Mayavadis say that the Person's merciful dealings are illusory products of Maya. But Prahlad here says instead that the Lord's mercy on him was unreal in the sense of being short lived, just like a dream. Again, Prahlad might be asked why he considers dream life a display of affection which is famous throughout the world, which many demigods, sages, and other reputable persons witnessed, and which he himself vividly experienced. Taking into account that Prahlad's spiritual understanding was already fully awakened in his boyhood years, his saintly behavior and other exalted qualities are obvious symptoms of the Lord's great favor on him. Why should he try to hide this fact? Prahlad can only answer that yes, the Lord's show of affection was real, but still it was not evidence of the Lord's mercy, particularly on him. Prahlad completes this argument in the next verse. Verse 23. The Lord truly gives his mercy, saintly authorities believe, when he grants the right to render various kinds of service, a blessing he gives to such devotees as Hanuman. Nothing else counts as his mercy. Commentary. Small displays of affection are not proof of the personality of Godhead's favor, Prahlad says. But when a devotee becomes mature and has realized his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, the Lord gives opportunities to serve him. There are numerous examples of favored devotees, among them Lord Ramachandra's monkey devotees like Hanuman and Sugriva, and Lord Krishna's Yadu associate like the Pandavas. Thus, Prahlad tries to deny the validity of Narada's glorifying him as a recipient of the Supreme Lord's special mercy. He especially tries to deny the relevance of what Narada has described in text 7. Lord Nrsimha's having placed Prahlad on his lap and cuddled him as a mother poodled him. as a mother cradles her child. Text 24. Furthermore, Sriman Nrsimha performed his pastimes not to favor me but to protect the demigods, his devotees, and deliver two of his eternal servants. Text 25. He also wished to uphold the truth of the words of Brahma and of others, such as Brahma's sons, and fully display the greatness of devotional service. These were the only reasons for his pastimes. Commentary: the personality of Godhead assumed this amazing half lion, half man form to save Prahlad from Hiranyakashipu, the most terrible opponent of Lord Vishnu's devotional service. The most terrible opponent of Lord Vishnu's devotional service. Isn't this evidence enough that he favors Prahlad? No, Prahlad replies. The Supreme Lord's appearance as Nrsimha and his disposing of Hiranyakashipu served other purposes. The Lord enacted this pastime to protect Indra and the other demigods, who are his faithful devotees. He also descended in this form to free his two Vaikuntha associates Jay and Vijay from the curse of Sanaka and his brothers. In addition, the Lord felt obliged to fulfill the words of several of his devotees. Like Brahma had predicted the Supreme Lord's appearance as Nrsimha. Brahma's sons, the four Kumaras, had predicted the Lord's killing of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu himself, who was an incarnation of Lord Narayan's doorkeeper Jai, had also made statements that the Lord had to make true, and Narada's and Prahlad's predictions also needed to be realized. A detailed description of how Lord Nrsimha had to fulfill the words of his various devotees is found in Srila Sridhar Swami's commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam 7.8.17, a verse beginning Satyam vidhatum nijabhritya bhashitam, quote, to make true what was spoken by his servants, unquote. When Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad whether his lord Vishnu was also present in a pillar of the palace, Prahlad answered, yes, of course, he is present everywhere. Lord Nrsimha emerged from the pillar to fulfill the statement of Prahlad's and Prahlad's previous statement that the Lord is also present in the varieties of material creation and in the material elements. The personality of Godhead burst forth from the pillar in the terrifying form of Nrsimha to dispatch Hiranyakashipu quickly and thus fulfill the request of the four Kumaras that Jay and Vijay be reinstated in their position in Vaikuntha after only 3 births in the material world. Lord Nrsimha's form, neither human nor animal, was like nothing ever seen before in Brahma's creation, and he appeared at the doorway of Hiranyakashipu's court. This unprecedented appearance fulfilled Hiranyakashipu's choice of benedictions from Brahma. Bhagavatam 7 3:35 to 36. Tebhyastvat Vishritebhyo Mrityorma Bhun Mama Prabho. O my Lord, please let me not meet death from any of the living entities created by you. Nantar Vahi, either indoors or outdoors, and Na Narer Na Mrigair Abhi, from either men or beast. Brahma had answered this request, so be it. Hiranyakashipu later said, I can see that this boy's strength is unlimited, for he has not feared any of my punishments. He appears immortal. Therefore, because of my enmity towards him, I shall die. Or maybe this will not take place. And when Indra had wanted to kill the unborn Prahlad in the womb of Hiranyakashipu's wife, Narada had warned him. The child within this woman's womb is faultless and sinless. Indeed, he is a great devotee, a powerful servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you will not be able to kill him. All these words had to be fulfilled by the Lord, as implied by the word cha. And in this verse spoken by Prahlad, text 25, the personality of Godhead also had to fulfill his own words from Bhagavad Gita 9:31. Kaunteya prati janani na me bhakta pranashyati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. And 12.7 Tesham aham samudharta vrityur samsara sagara. I quickly deliver my devotees from the ocean of birth and death. Therefore, Prahlad concludes what Lord Nrsimha did during his short appearance does not prove that Prahlad is the Lord's favored devotee. Even though the Lord made a show of neglecting Brahman and the other demigods by showering affection on Prahlad alone, that display should not be taken to indicate the Lord's true feelings. Otherwise, as Prahlad's logic goes, one would infer that the Supreme Lord has no affection either for his Vaikuntha associates like Garuda or for the goddess of fortune, whom he also neglected on that occasion. Lord Nrsimha only wanted to draw attention to the greatness of pure devotional service by showing that even a demon like Prahlad can earn the Lord's reciprocation by steadfastly meditating on his mercy in the face of all dangers. This argument is Prahlad's answer to Narada's statement in texts 7 and 8 that Lord Nrsimha had showered special affection on Prahlad while ignoring, in quotes, ignoring Brahma, Shiva, and the other demigods, offering prayers, and even ignoring the goddess Padma. Verse 26. O greatest of devotees who have nothing material to possess, when the personality of Godhead gave me a kingdom, I understood that I had not received even one atom of his mercy. Commentary. Self-realized sages are called Paramhamsas when they give up all material ambitions. But the greatest Paramhamsas are those who have also abandoned the desire for liberation and the sense of being self-satisfied and impersonal realization. Narada is the best of such Vaishnava Paramhamsas. Prahlad addresses him like this to imply that Narada should certainly understand the fallen condition of one who becomes entangled in political responsibilities. Thus Prahlad asserts, Lord Nrsimha hardly blessed me with his favor. By giving me my father's kingdom, he actually punished me severely. Text 27. As the Lord says, when I wish to favor someone, I make him lose his opulence. Hmm. Such statements as this are evidence, and so also are the statements of his exalted devotees. Commentary. In the first half of this verse, Prahlad cites Srimad Bhagavatam 10:27-16, where Sri Krishna advises the repentant Indra. Okay. Sri Krishna has made the same point in other contexts as in his comment to Yudhishthir Maharaj, Bhagavatam 10:88-8. Yasyaham anugrahnami harishyetat dhanam sane. If I actually favor someone, I gradually make him lose all his wealth. The same point is also made by devotees like Sudama Brahman and Vritrasura. In the words of Sudama, to a devotee who lacks spiritual insight, the Supreme Lord will not grant the wonderful opulences of this world. Finally, power, which is kingly power and material assets. Indeed, in his infinite wisdom, the unborn Lord well knows how the intoxication of pride can cause the downfall of the wealthy. And as stated by Vrita, which is in Bhagavatam 10:81-37, persons who fully surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always think of his lotus feet are accepted and recognized by the Lord as his own personal assistants or servants. The Lord never bestows upon such servants the brilliant opulences of the upper, lower, or middle planetary systems of this material world. When one possesses material opulences in any of these three divisions of the universe, his possessions naturally increase his enmity, anxiety, mental agitation, pride, and belligerence. Thus, one goes through much endeavor to increase and maintain his possessions, and he suffers great unhappiness when he loses them. Yeah. Text 28. Just see how my worship of the Lord has been eclipsed by my attachment to ruling my kingdom. and by my ties to family members, servants, and others. Not for crying over this in remorse, I should be condemned again and again. Narada might suggest that material facilities are dangerous for immature devotees, whereas those who are fully self realized need not fear becoming distracted from their worship of the Lord. Sudama Brahman had talked about neophyte devotees who lack spiritual insight and whom the personality of Godhead has to protect from the danger of too much material opulence. But Prahlad is a fully realized devotee with mature insight into the true value of the Supreme Lord's devotional service. Mere sense gratification and political power are not going to distract him. As Lord Krishna told King Muchukunda, Na dhir ekanta bhaktanam, ashibhir bhityate kvachit. The intelligence of my unalloyed devotees is never diverted by material blessings. He similarly said to Uddhav, Praya pragalbhaya bhaktya vishayer nabhi bhuyate. One who has unflinching devotion for me will never be defeated by sense gratification. Prahlad replies here that he has been distracted and deviated from pure devotion, a fact that proves that he never actually received the full mercy of the Supreme Lord. According to Prahlad's lament, his concentrated meditation on being protected by the Lord has now become completely eclipsed. He carefully says eclipsed rather than destroyed because he knows very well that Bhagavad Bhakti is purely spiritual. It is eternal and can never be destroyed, only temporarily covered by material contamination of the soul's consciousness. Wow. Text 29. Why else would I have fought against the renowned Lord at Vishala, as if I had reverted to the low conditioning of my birth? Commentary. In this verse, Prahlad resorts to the kind of logic technically known as Anyatha Anupapati or negative hypothesis. This form of logic works as follows. Devadatta is fat, but we do not see him eating during the day. Therefore, he must be eating at night while everyone else is asleep. We cannot explain his fatness without presuming his eating at night. Similarly, Prahlad argues here that there is no way to explain his fighting against Lord Naranarayan but to accept that his devotion to the Lord has become eclipsed. The dual incarnation of the personality of Godhead in the forms known as Naranarayan appeared in order to teach how to perform devotional austerity. They reside in the Himalayas at the place variously called Vishala and Badrika. The first and fourth cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam discuss this incarnation. In the fourth incarnation, the Lord became Nara and Narayan, the twin sons of the wife of King Dharma. Thus, he undertook severe and exemplary penances to control the senses. Thus, the demigods worshipped with prayers the Supreme Personality of Godhead appearing as the sage Nara Narayan. The Lord glanced upon them with mercy and then departed for Gandhamadana hill. This is from Bhagavatam 4.158. Prahlad refers to the conditioning of my birth, his being a descendant of demons, the natural enemies of Lord Vishnu and the Vaishnavas, was too distasteful for him to mention directly. Even more unmentionable was his being the son of one of the staunchest haters of Vishnu. Text 30. The demons, in their teachings, are always inclined to bad scholarship about the truth of the self. Because of my association with such demons, even today my understanding is not free from the degraded element of dry speculation. Commentary. Prahlad insists that even before he fell into materialistic sense gratification by becoming a king, he had never been completely free from demonic qualities. In particular, he was expert, like other demons, in expounding impersonal theories about the eternal soul. Such theories, full of bad scholarship, try to establish the perfection of life in impersonal knowledge without devotion to the Supreme. Bella thinks, that by living with the Daityas and imbibing their attitudes, he became infected with this taste for impersonal speculation. This taste is adhama, base, and contemptible because it subverts the ecstatic personal exchanges of bhakti rasa. Text 31. So, how can any pure devotion appear in me that would signify the Lord's mercy? I see proof of my lack of devotion when I ponder the wickedness of Banasura. Commentary. Pure devotional service is free from predominance by karma and jnana. The author Vopadeva has explained pure devotion in his book Mukta Alam by citing the words of Lord Kapiladev in Bhagavatam 3:29-12, Ahetuki avyavahita ya bhakti purushottame. Pure devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is causeless and uninterrupted. Prahlad is intensely aware of the meaning of pure devotion, as shown by his mindfulness of the bad character of his great grandson Banasura. Bana rejected the worship of his family's traditional deity Sri Vishnu and instead took shelter of Lord Shiva. He also abused Krishna's grandson Anirudh by arresting him. Prahlad argues, how can anyone with such a wicked person in his family possess pure devotion for the Lord? By this, Prahlad means to refute Lord Shiva's argument that Krishna's sparing Bana was a sign that Prahlad had received Sri Krishna's mercy. In fact, Prahlad thinks killing Bana would have been better than sparing him. Text 32. I have heard some say that now, after arresting and imprisoning Bali, the Lord stays here in Sutala as the doorman just to keep him captive. In any case, I cannot say where the Lord is now. Commentary. Narada met Prahlad on the planet Sutala, the domain of Bali Maharaj. As mentioned before, Prahlad was staying there for some time on the invitation of Lord Vamana. Prahlad has heard from reputable sages that Sri Vaman Dev stays at Bali's gate just to keep Bali from escaping Sutala Loka. This opinion is expressed to Banasura by his friend Kushmanda in Sri Harivamsha. There, Kushmanda depicts Bali as a prisoner in Sutala. Shri, my dear king, your father Bali has been defeated by the friend of Vishnu and is now in captivity. But in the future, he will be able to escape through the vast ocean and somewhere obtain a kingdom. Bali's residence in Sutala is further described as imprisonment in the section of Uttarakhanda of Valmiki's Ramayana that narrates Ravana's conquest in the region of Patala. By this argument, Prahlad counters Narada's words in text 13. O best of the Vaishnavas, why should I say that Lord Mukunda has been conquered only by you? Your grandson Bali, chief of the Daityas, has also conquered him. Narada might respond by pointing out that Prahlad has the opportunity to see Lord Vishnu in Loka whenever he wants, whereas even Shiva, Brahma, and other great demigods can rarely see him. Prahlad here anticipates and defeats this idea by saying, it would be evidence of the Lord's mercy on me if I could see him always, but at the moment I do not even know where he is. And if I do not know, how can I freely have his audience? Sometimes he shows himself here, but not continuously. Text 33. On rare occasions, some persons like Ravana can see the Lord here. The Lord shows himself only when it suits his own purpose. He thus showed himself in this very place to Durvasa, because Durvasa had strong faith in being able to see the Lord. Commentary. While invading the region of Patala, Ravana came to the entrance of Bali Maharaj's capital. But Lord Vamana, standing at the gate with club in hand, refused to let Ravana enter and neglectfully kicked him far away. Prahlad argues that this is not proof of Sri Vamana's constant presence at Bali's door. The Lord appeared there on this one occasion for the special purpose of protecting Bali from being conquered by Ravana. On another occasion, Durvasa, who was living in Kushasthala, Kushasthali, The site of the future city of Dwaraka was troubled by the demon Kusha and his cohorts. Kushas, Kushasthali's ancient guardians. Durvasa went to Sutala to ask Lord Vamana for help. As related in the Dwaraka Mahatmya of the Skanda Puran, it was Narada who had advised Durvasa to go to Lord Vamana in Sutala and had assured Durvasa he would indeed find Lord Vamana there. Because Durvasa had trusted Narada's words, Lord Vamana upheld their truth by allowing Durvasa his darshan. Text 34. Wherever one develops an intense desire to achieve the Supreme Lord, there one can obtain him. But the Lord's merely residing in a certain place does not grant one his association. Commentary: the personality of Godhead does not give himself away to those whose desires are not absolutely pure. Only perfect love can induce him to reveal himself. If the Lord's presence in a place were a sufficient cause for realizing him, then every living being throughout the universe should already have attained him, since in his form as Sri Vasudev, the Supersoul, he is all pervading. Nice point. Your devotees are convinced that the Lord is permanently present in his eternal abodes that have appeared on earth. That conviction, however, is born of the devotees' fervent eagerness to realize their personal relationship with the Lord. Without that strong desire, one will not have much faith in his presence. It is true that in Sri Vrindavan and some other abodes of Supreme Lord, even devotees with immature faith are sometimes granted a vision of the Lord and his pastimes. But we should understand that this occurs only by the special potency of these places, which are exceptionally dear to the personality of Godhead. Nowadays, the Lord does not reveal himself as easily in every holy place where he appeared in the past. Text 35. If my Lord were always present here in person, why would I have traveled all the way to Naimisharanya to see him as Lord Pitavasa, the yellow garbed form of Narayan? We can, text 36, we can say that by your mercy the Supreme Lord developed some love for me, and so I appear glorious. But my greatness is just like a tiny speck before the heaps of mercy the Lord bestows on his newer devotees. Commentary: out of humility and respect for his Guru, Narada, Prahlad now realizes that he should not have contradicted Narada's statements. Therefore, he now approaches the question from another angle, acknowledging Narada's words but reinterpreting them. Near devotees like Hanuman, Prahlad says, were favored by the Supreme Lord much more. After a person has seen the great ocean, the sight of a small lake will no longer impress him. Text 37. O Narada, your heart overflows with causeless compassion. Why should I go on describing all my misfortunes, which simply make you unhappy? Instead, please consider the Lord's mercy on Hanuman of the Kimpurushas. Commentary: since Narada is naturally compassionate to all suffering souls, Prahlad thinks Narada has been speaking just to encourage him with words of exaggerated praise. And so Prahlad thinks that to continue describing his own misfortune will distress Narada, his spiritual master, thus resulting in Guru Aparadh. Read that. Reread that. And so Prahlad thinks that to continue describing his own misfortune will distress Narada, the spiritual master, thus resulting in Guru Aparadh. Narada cannot tolerate unhappiness in anyone, especially his own disciple. Since Narada is intent on finding the true recipient of the Supreme Lord's mercy, Prahlad tries to divert Narada's attention by proposing Hanuman as an alternative. He tells Narada, Pasya, don't just accept my word on this, please go witness his glories for yourself. Text 38. Please note, my Lord, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared suddenly in his form of Nrsimha just to kill my father. And as soon as the Lord fulfilled his purpose, he at once disappeared. 39. I haven't been able to see my Lord directly whenever I wanted. So when I saw him once on the shore of the ocean, it was just like seeing a dream. Commentary. Prahlad claims that since the time he saw Lord Nrsimha, when the Lord appeared from a pillar to kill Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad has not had much opportunity to see him again. What to speak of serve him and develop a personal relationship? When Nrsimhadev first appeared, Prahlad's spontaneous devotion was hampered by the novelty and shock of the moment, and by his own fear and reverence. The dramatic setting in the palace on the shore of the ocean, and the presence of many demigods and sages made it difficult for Prahlad to freely express his love. Thus, this is described in some detail in Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya 14. Text 40. But Hanuman is much more fortunate. For many thousands of years, he has enjoyed serving the Lord constantly without obstruction. Commentary. According to Sri Ramayana, Hanuman stayed with Lord Ramachandra on this earth for more than 11,000 years. Srimad Bhagavatam, however, says that he served his Lord directly for more than 13,000 years. In the ninth canto, 9, 11, 18, and 36, the Bhagavatam states, after Mother Sita entered the earth, Lord Ramachandra observed complete celibacy and performed an uninterrupted Agnihotra Yagya for 13,000 years. Without transgressing the religious principles, Lord Ramachandra, whose lotus feet are worshipped by devotees in meditation, enjoyed with all the paraphernalia of transcendental pleasure for as long as needed. Hanuman remained with Lord Ramachandra all this time. Text 41. He is the most powerful person. When he was just a child, the demigods favored him with several wonderful benedictions. Thus he became immune to old age and death. Commentary. Hanuman's unique strength and his other qualities mentioned in this verse and the next enhance his unimpeded service to Lord Ramachandra. How he received the demigod's benedictions is explained in Sri Ramayana Uttarakhanda 35 to 36. As soon as Hanuman was born, he saw the sun rising over his head and thought it to be some ripe fruit hanging from a tree. He jumped up to catch it and would have done so had, uh, and would have done so had Indra not intervened to protect the sun by hurling the thunderbolt weapon, striking Hanuman in the jaw, and felling him unconscious to the earth. Hanuman's father Vayu, greatly angered, decided to withhold the force of breath all over the universe, and all the denizens of the universe began to suffocate. To save the universal population, Brahma and the other chief demigods came to Hanuman, revived him, and granted him various benedictions. We will stop here. We're stopping at text 42.
Okay, bro. Thank you so much for reading.
Thank you,
Sorry to
Prabhu.
put the whole burden on you. I think next week I'll be able to read some too.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for your nice association, as always.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you, bro.
Prabhu. Hope you feel better.
Yeah,
Hare
we're getting there
Krishna.
slowly. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.